Hey Rockstars, I'm JB, expert salesperson and master presenter.
I'm the doctor, psychologist, and behavioral expert.
This is the Entrepreneur Mastery Lab podcast.
We're high-performance coaches that help service-based professionals and entrepreneurs take their skills to the next level.
70% of entrepreneurs fail, which is why every week we have real talk with real entrepreneurs to help ensure you are not one of them.
We're also the inventors of the Be Rich mindset,
where we rise to mastery,
inspire greatness,
celebrate knowledge,
and help others along the way.
So join us in the lab.
And now, on to the show.
Welcome back, Rockstars, to the EML podcast. I'm JB.
And I am the doctor.
Thank you for joining us again. If you've listened to us previously, we appreciate you continuing to listen on. For all our new listeners, thank you so much for joining us today.
Welcome.
We've got a great topic we want to cover, and it was prompted because we're both dads and we both had the chance to celebrate Father's Day this past week.
For most of you that don't know, Father's Day was yesterday, if you're listening to it Monday live.
That's right. And so I have the pleasure of having a young child, and he made me something. It was really sweet. He was at camp and he made me a mason jar. He didn't make the mason jar. That would be incredible, not sweet. That'd be freaking, he'd be like glass blowing and shit. I don't know how you do that, but he filled a mason jar with Legos so he could build something with me. And he came home and he was so excited, and he put the gift on the table. He had me open it right there, and he was like, "Okay, let's start building right now, Daddy." Really, really sweet thing to have for a Father's Day gift for me.
So a lot of the other parents out there that are hearing that there's Legos, do you also think it was a setup because they know he's going to step on one of those Legos later, and that's just the worst pain in the world?
Yeah, it already happened. We've got pretty strict Lego rules in this house, but they don't get followed apparently. But building something in Father's Day, it made us think, hey, we should probably talk a little bit about mentorship and mentoring. And it's just a really important topic, that's just very relevant following Father's Day. Yeah.
And that was, I think, my little quip about that is because Father's Day also gets that little second, like, afterthought, right? Mother's Day, the big plan, brunch, there's things around it. You don't usually see as many like Father's Day specials and stuff. But when we think in history, and it's not true for everyone, again, so speaking in more of a historical context, when we think about our fathers in history, it is the father is the head of the household. The father was the mentor. The father worked. The father provided living. The father set the tone. And a lot of mentorships come from that kind of concept. A lot of masterminds are set up with that kind of concept, that is the head of the table. And the big piece of chicken. Don't forget the big piece of chicken.
Yeah, I'm still struggling. I couldn't tell if you said mentor or dementor when you were talking about your dad for a minute. I wasn't sure. But you're right. The father figure has historically been, in the United States culture, at least, head of the household, and even going back to Europe as well. So there's something to be said about that. And mentorship's something, Doc, that's pretty near and dear to my heart. When I worked in the corporate world, one of the first things I did I imagine get myself noticed for advancement was I developed a mentorship group for a number of people so that they could go ahead and have some of those conversations that you don't necessarily feel all that comfortable having with management. And it was really popular. It took off. There's an absolute desire there from a lot of people to find a mentor, and it makes sense. A lot of us are just trying to figure out what is the best way to get from A to B. And in a lot of ways, a mentor can help with that, right?
Yeah, ideally, that's you look to, don't create the wheel, right? You don't want to recreate the wheel is a big saying. And a lot of the times we want to find someone who's done it before us. And that's where a mentor comes in real handy, is to set the tone, help you avoid some of the mistakes, a lot of knowledge, hundreds of other things. That's just the top of my mind of what I thought of when mentor came to mind.
A mentor can absolutely kind of help you identify where there's going to be some challenges, where you need to maybe tread lightly, where there are opportunities to take advantage of, where to focus your time and prioritize. A mentor can do so much, and yet there's certain things that a mentor probably is not best for. And maybe we should talk a little bit about the difference between a mentor and a coach, because there is a distinct difference there. And we've had a guest on our podcast previously, Dr. Priscilla Kutzer, who shared an analogy with us that I just think is just so appropriate.
Dr. P.
Dr. P, that's right. And what Dr. P had said was a mentor is really great at explaining where they started to where they got. So from where they were to where they got. So, and she described it as if you're asking for directions and you're both standing in the same place and you need to get to, let's say, Target, it's going to be really easy to give you directions. But if your mentor is 2 miles south of Target and you're 2 miles north of Target where you're starting out, those directions might not be too good. And that would be the difference between a mentor and a coach. A coach isn't trying to share with you exactly what their experience was. They're just trying to find you the best directions from where you're starting to where you're going.
And there's value in both, right? So the mentor, the idea of getting to Target, take a car, take a bus, avoid traffic, where the front door is, like that, those same things kind of still play. They're not specific to the route you're taking, but they're specific to the overall thing. So you get a good overall view of it. The coach will get you there in less time, very specific to your route, how you're going. In
a perfect world, you would probably have both.
Ideally, yes.
You would probably have a coach and a mentor. Now, mentors are nice because in a sense, nobody thinks about paying a mentor, right? We don't pay a mentor, and we probably pay a coach. But mentorship's an interesting thing because in my experience, the very best mentorship relationships include the mentor and the mentee. And I don't really know in the sense of which is which. I probably ought to.
Mentos.
I
figure we just name as many brands as we can this episode to see if we can get a sponsorship.
All right. I like that. The person doing the mentoring can really learn from the person they're mentoring, because it's an incredible thing when we teach. Of course, it really helps solidify and get us better at everything that we do. And when you're in the position where you're trying to help somebody and you're looking back at all the things that you've done, good and bad, it really helps give you some clarity around where you've been and where you are today. And we don't often do that. I think, especially as very business professionals or very busy professionals or business owners, we don't really have the opportunity to do that much. And we rarely take it. It can be a really cathartic experience for people, I think.
No doubt. And the beauty of mentorship, they come in all different shapes and sizes, right? It's when I first brought up the initial analogy of thinking of your father, like that's the first idea of mentorship. And that's what you're drawn to. But mentorship comes in all shapes and sizes. It could be someone that you've met through work. It could be someone who's had a position similar to yours. It could be someone that you know from school. Mentors that you didn't think that had any kind of relevance until you get to start talking to them and they take you under their wing. In my world, in the psychology world, my other world, similar world. I feel like I'm always time traveling every time I say other world. I'm not Thor yet.
I was going with Marty McFly, but all right.
I'm going to go with Thor. I'm not saying I am the god of thunder, but I might be a deity. There was a point somewhere coming out. But what I did, and when I built my practice, I have a group practice, and part of what I did and how I set it up was to bring in younger clinicians to come in, to give them a space to kind of grow, that I can help mentor them along, avoid some of the mistakes I made when I was building my practice, and kind of help them along as just an additional help in the area. And that was a big part of why when I set it up the way I did. Now, it probably cost me money. I could have things done more efficiently, but the benefit that they get outweighed that to me, and to be able to offer that back, which is different from all the coaching that I do in my coaching practice and of course with JBandTheDoctor, right? So there's a big difference in that world, but a lot of the same kind of information going by.
Personally, I think I've had a number of mentors in my life, Doc. And the really interesting thing to me is not all of them have been great relationships. And I've learned a lot from some mentors that I did not have good relationships with. I'm just thinking back to maybe my first mentor who took me under his wing when I started out in the financial services industry right out of college. And boy, was I not ready. Was I not ready? And for those of you who know my past, know my experience, I'm not this guy that achieved immediate instant success in my career. It took me a long time to develop the maturity I needed to be really successful in business. I was the type of person that I kind of needed a break from being mature when I got into college and directly afterwards. And it took me a little while. And my first mentor really, some of the best lessons I ever learned in sales were from this guy. And he did one thing better than anybody else ever did before or after him. He put a hell of a chip on my shoulder and really gave me some drive. So, not every mentorship relationship is always a great relationship, just not every relationship with a father is a great relationship. And for some reason, when I'm saying that, I'm thinking like Darth Vader in Star Wars. Like that's a pretty not great relationship with a dad for the most part. But mentors and mentorship doesn't necessarily always mean a great relationship, but it can lead to great results and experiences. One of the things I would love for our audience to know, for those of you listening, we of course have our free private Facebook group. You can find the details in the show notes below. It just happens to have the same name as our podcast here, the Entrepreneur Mastery Lab. But within that Facebook group, we actually have the ability for people to become mentors or get mentored if they're interested in developing that sort of relationship with somebody. So we really do want to facilitate this because a mentorship can make an absolute tremendous difference in how quickly you find success and the results that you want to achieve. And so if you're looking for this type of relationship, look no further. We've got you covered, or people in our group, other professionals, have got you covered.
And one of the other nice side effects that you have from a mentorship is the topic of last week's podcast. So hopefully you listen to that. If not, go back because it's going to be brought up right now. Trust, right? The level of trust that you start to create with that mentor, to trust that they're going to give you the right direction. They're going to understand where you're coming from, and having to trust the fact that you're probably going to get information that's against what you normally think is what you're supposed to do, and to trust the process and try different things. Is one of the greatest things for mentorship that I've ever seen, is stepping out of your own comfort zone. And to be able to do that, you have to trust the person. So go back and listen to last week also.
That was an interesting podcast, Doc, because I really feel like we could have spent an hour talking about trust, and we kept that pretty short and tight because it was just the two of us. Thankfully, we have all the great content we put out in our EML group to really go a whole lot further around trust in all aspects that we focus on, whether it's mindset, sales, presentation and positioning, productivity, all of that. So definitely check it out. Check out the podcast, join the group if you haven't joined the group. We'd love to make sure that you're getting the full JBandTheDoctor experience here, because there is a whole lot beyond what we have in our podcast.
And let us know, what do you think? We try to mix it up for you to keep you on your toes and engaged. We do some longer episodes with some guests. We do some quick hit episodes with just the two of us. Let us know what you think of that. Would you like a little bit longer content from us? Would you like it to be even quicker? We'll definitely take the feedback and try to keep you entertained as much as possible.
And if you're anything like me, you probably have some questions you want answered. Doc, do we have anything to help answer questions
besides our brains? Yes, we do. We have an upcoming event on that just mentioned Facebook group, private free Facebook group called the Entrepreneur Mastery Lab, in case you missed it or didn't read the title of the podcast. And it will be this Friday at noon, where you can log on, listen, and learn. And if you're in the group, what you can also do is ask some questions.
Yeah, we love giving people the opportunity to throw some of the real life challenges and struggles they're dealing with at us. So we can offer some insight. Our specialization, as everybody here knows, is around productivity and time management. It's around presentation, positioning, and public speaking. It's around consultative sales. But if you've got questions in that arena or just in the business world in general, we would love nothing more than to answer them and give you some clarity on the best ways you can move forward and get past some of these obstacles. So it's a really exciting thing for us to be able to offer to anybody in our group.
And while I'm plugging previous podcasts, if you would go back a few episodes ago, you would also hear the last Q&A, which we covered quite a bit. So take that content, because as you know, the Be Rich mindset is a big part of what we believe in. And a big part of that is helping others along the way. And we want to make sure that we're helping as many people as possible.
All right, Doc. I feel like we covered a lot of ground here. We talked about mentorship. We talked about, fatherhood and what drove us to even think about this topic. We even shared the difference between, what is mentorship and what is really working with coaches, with people like us, because there is a distinct difference there, and it probably shouldn't be one or the other. They're not mutually exclusive. It should be both. So I hope everybody here listening today has had a great experience kind of getting a little clarity around this. If you're interested in more, check out our group. Do not miss it. We'll have content on this throughout the entire week. And until then, I'm JB, and we'll sell you later.
Don't forget to check us out on all the social media contents: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. And also big special shout out to all the fathers out there. I hope you really enjoyed your Father's Day. And I hope you enjoyed your ties and socks and all other great gifts that you got, and you enjoyed your big piece of chicken. I'm the doctor. Peace out, yo.